You. I have to tell you what an intense joy and experience of grace it is to be doing this right now. You must know that the first time I set foot in this chapel was in the fall of 1991 as an 8th grader who was here for my 8th grade retreat. We spent the day here at Carmel under the direction of Mr. Fitzgibbons. I remember lots of loud, boisterous fun and prayer, but the moment that I remember most clearly was at the end of the day, the end of the retreat. We were directed to write a letter to our future selves. That's been a part of that 8th grade retreat experience for a long time. We were told to go find a spot, a quiet spot, to do this activity, and I chose that little corner, that little nook right back there by that stained glass window. I can see that moment in my life as a little 13-year-old, clear as crystal. I can feel it in my heart when I think about that moment. Who would have thought that 30 years later, I would have this privilege to be able to be involved in this incredible project and the joy to share that project with you this morning. So this sacred place, this blessed Titus Brandsma Chapel, if I may, I will provide a little bit of historical background to this physical place, and then with the help of some wonderful current seniors, we'll show you some of the images that show our vision for its transformation. This chapel was originally built in 1961 as the chapel for Carmel Catholic High School for boys and the Carmelites who lived in the monastery down that hallway, which is now our Fine Arts Center. So this chapel was for their use, for Mass, for prayer, and it was that for many years. This chapel is named for Blessed Titus Brandsma, a Dutch Carmelite journalist who was first censured and then ultimately executed by the Nazis in the camp of Dachau. He refused to stop speaking the truth. What an incredible model and witness for students over 60 years. Since then, and even until this very day, once our schools merged, Sister Peggy told us some wonderful stories about the girls' school and the boys' school coming together. This place is now where generations of Carmel students have encountered Christ in word and sacrament under the luminous gaze of Mary, our patroness, our mother, and Our Lady of Mount Carmel. That window is just iconic. I'm looking around the room today and I see so many faces of people who've had deep ties to this place for generations, and some for even just a few years, and that image of Our Lady of Mount Carmel really means so much to us. This renovation is designed to enhance the natural beauty of this chapel and to infuse it with the legacy of both our founders, the Sisters of Charity of the Blessed Virgin Mary and the Order of Carmelites. So you will see elements of this throughout this presentation. All right, without further ado, ladies, if we could see board number 1, please. Okay. In this board, you can see a close-up of the window I was referencing a moment ago, Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and it will remain the focal point of the chapel with a couple of things to allow that. The window will be enhanced using wood casing and molding to emphasize it. Side note, the style and color of the wood casing has actually been adapted throughout the building for about the past 18 months. We have done some small renovations, we've done some new additions to the aesthetic beauty of the building, and all of that is very intentional because the guiding principle of all of our renovations throughout the building in the past 2 years really has been that the Brandsma Chapel is the heart of the school. This is where the Eucharist resides. This is the core of our mission, but it doesn't remain within these walls. It flows out into the hallways and then ultimately out into the world. Never did you think that a wood tone could do that, but I think it does. I think it does. Subtle symbolism, very powerful, I hope. So the wood casing and molding is there to emphasize it, but I would like to draw your attention to the 2 strips of Carrara marble that will be inlaid on either side of the window. That marble is actually going to be from the very large altar that was in the BVM chapel from the beginning of the school on the other end of the building. And so that marble we still have in storage, and we're just waiting for the perfect moment to use it in a meaningful way. And so that marble will be brought in and utilized in that space, bringing in that double legacy, taking this originally Carmelite chapel and really allowing it to reflect both of our founders. All right, ladies, may I see board number 2? Thank you. So this image, you will see a similar image as board number 1, but it's zoomed out a little bit. The first thing I'd like to point out is that the tabernacle, which now resides in one of the side chapels, will be moved to a more traditional but theologically rich location. Mary herself, her womb was the tabernacle, the first dwelling of Christ. There will be drywall placed over sections of the brick, and the drywall will be overlaid with a custom stencil. This custom stencil is a pattern that has been created from the BVM and Carmelite elements of our crest. Please note that in this depiction, just a small note, it depicts this stencil as being high contrast in color. In an effort to not detract from the windows, that stencil will actually appear in real life in a very low contrasting color. So it will be there, it will be an influential symbol, but it will let the window shine. The next thing I'll point out is that the baldacchino that resides above the altar will be polished and refurbished. And while we're talking about that, there's another way that we have utilized this idea of symbolism flowing into the building, symbolism from our chapel. That symbol has appeared on a number of things, including Ray's coffee cup, and also rugs in our crossroads, and different student organizations have caught on, and they've brought that symbol into some of their marketing and branding, and it's going very well. Again, the wood wainscoting will be replaced, freshened up, tied into the rest of the color of the wood in the building and in the school. And then our plan for the flooring is to remove the carpeting, and we are pretty darn sure that there is beautiful terrazzo flooring that runs underneath this carpeting. So we'll be using that original flooring, polishing it up, revealing its beauty, and not covering it up. Our plan for the Stations of the Cross, you may notice that right now our Stations of the Cross are very tightly located in the sanctuary space. What we would like to do moving forward is to space them throughout the chapel, the whole chapel, so that we're able to take a mini pilgrimage and pray the stations when we would like to do that. I'm excited about our choice for the Stations of the Cross. I think that it really reflects our care for our common home in an effort to recycle and be good stewards of our resources. We're actually going to go on a hunt, an antique treasure hunt, to find a set of stations that were formerly in a church somewhere in our area that has since closed, and we're going to give them a new home here after they've been refurbished and refinished. And I can't move on before I share my favorite detail. Please notice that the ceiling of the new sanctuary will be the night sky, but not just any night sky. It will be the night sky at this particular latitude and longitude here in Mundelein, Illinois. It will be the stars and planets as they appeared in the sky on the night of July 16th, 1962. Any guesses why that date was chosen? Yes, 1962 when our school opened, and July 16th, the Feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. So not just beauty for the sake of beauty, but very intentional, symbolic beauty. Okay, ladies, thank you. Can I see board number 3? It's a tough one. This image, thank you so much. This image is if you were standing up there looking out this way, looking at the nave. We have the same plan for the flooring right here to remove this carpet, redo the terrazzo. We have the same plan for drywall and stenciling, but a judicious use of it so that it does not become overwhelming. There will be 2 storage cabinets for our chairs so that just the overall look is improved. But most notably, I'll point out that this historic crucifix, which is original to the chapel, will be relocated to the wall there. Now, at first glance, that might seem a little odd, but if you understand the way we use this chapel, we think that it makes sense. 90 to 95% of the time when we celebrate Mass, we are all seated up there, and the priest is facing the window of Mary, and so the crucifix will be appear to us to be right over Father in a traditional format. We do have a plan for when Mass is celebrated in this configuration. When we're doing our treasure hunt for our Stations of the Cross, we're going to also look for a substantial processional cross that we can include that would be facing this direction. All right, if we could please see board number 4, our side shrine idea. This one right here. I'll let you do your job. You're doing so well. Okay, along with this one comes a mini history lesson, and please forgive me if you are already aware of this, but it's a very interesting thing, the way this chapel is built architecturally. It reveals to us a very specific moment in time. This chapel was built in 1961, 1962, with a school opening in the fall of 1962. Also happening in the fall of 1962 was the Second Vatican Council. Of the many things that came out of that council, there were some changes in liturgical practice. So you can see what we see here with these 6 altars, 3 on either side, are spots where the priests who live down the hallway would have celebrated their private masses. For most of the time of the existence of this chapel, that hasn't been how things have been done, even if it was built for that purpose. And so we see these 2 spaces, and we'll be respectful of the materials in there, and I'll explain how in a moment. But we see these 2 spaces as an opportunity for additional prayer space for our students and faculty and staff and anybody who would like to visit us. So what we will be doing is to remove the marble altars and the partitions. The one marble altar, right now where the Blessed Sacrament in the tabernacle resides, that altar will be the thing that is moved up to the base of the Mary window where the tabernacle will remain. But then the marble from the other 5 altars will be repurposed for liturgical implements like holy water fonts, freestanding holy water fonts, and candlesticks and things of that sort. So we'll make use of that historic and beautiful material. The relics from those altars will be retrieved, and we will have a new reliquary that you can see. It's that square right there on the wall. In addition to the relics from these 5 altars, we will also include one of the relics that we already have, which is Saint Therese of Lisieux. We've had her relic for a number of years. We have a newly acquired relic of Titus Brandsma, right over here by the window that depicts Titus Brandsma. And we will soon receive, as a special gift from faculty member Jack Canuli, a relic of St. Elizabeth Ann Seton, patroness of Catholic schools. So those 3 relics, along with the relics from these altars, will come together in a reliquary that will reside in that side chapel. We'll have flexible seating with benches, and so depending on the size of the Mass, or depending on if it's just somebody who wants to come and pray in a quiet moment, those 2 side areas will be available. Now, the star of the side chapels, which I think is really exciting, are these murals that you can see somewhat represented here. If you notice, there are 4 pillars, essentially. What will happen on the other side of the pillars, so the side facing the side chapels, is that we have identified 16 saints that have special ties to Carmel Catholic High School in some way or another, and 4 saints will be on each pillar. If you want to stop me afterwards, I'll tell you all 16 and all of the connections, but I also think it's on the beautiful website that has been built for this. I will tell you one that I think is so special. One of those 16 saints is Saint Martin de Porres. And that saint was chosen because a beloved and actually longest serving faculty member in the history of the school, Sister Mary Sadgast, her religious name is Sister Mary Martin de Porres. And so we're very excited to have that special nod to how much we love her still and how much her legacy remains in the fabric of our school. So St. Martin de Porres is one of those 16 saints who will be depicted. I have to point out this one small detail that I think is so beautiful, and we can't take credit for this detail. It really was inspired by the Cathedral of Our Lady of the Angels in Los Angeles. They have beautiful life-size tapestries of saints, and all of the saints are depicted facing the altar, and ours will be doing the same thing. So whenever, if you can just imagine having the opportunity to pray in that space, being surrounded by so much beauty, and then surrounded by images of the communion of saints that lift up their prayers with and for us, and all looking towards the altar, which is the source and summit of the Eucharist. So I think that will be very powerful for not just our students, but for all of us who will pray in this place. All right, if we could see board number 5, please. This board is actually a twofer. In addition to all of the beautiful things that are happening within this space, Mr. Joe Nemmers has made it possible for us to have an incredible new entrance to our chapel. Not only will we have a beautiful new entrance, but this entrance will be fully ADA accessible, which I think is just so important for us to be truly welcoming and inclusive, to allow for people to most easily come into our chapel. So we're grateful and excited about that renovation as well. On the other side of this board, you can see a close-up of the symbol that is integrating the BVM and the Carmelite elements of our crest. Again, please note that in real life, it will be very low contrast color, so not to detract from our beautiful historic windows. So that sums up what's happening in the chapel proper, but I have another exciting announcement about a new usage and a new name and a new life for some of the spaces exterior to the chapel. So ladies, if you could please flip both of those right now. I feel like it's a tremendous privilege to, I think maybe for the first time publicly, to reference the Mary Frances Clark Spiritual Center. This will encompass this entire area, including all of the offices, all of the hallway space, and including the exterior courtyard space. Excuse me. Okay, couldn't see. Over here you see our external courtyard space, which we will have a new access to, which is the courtyard right out that way. Afterwards, you can take a peek. Right now, it's just grass and trees, but it will be beautiful, relaxing, welcoming, fun, engaging physical space that my wonderful team will develop amazing programming to accompany the beautiful physical space. And then we have, again, the same thing, very welcoming, comfortable, and I don't know if I want to say cozy, but maybe cozy space interior, really with the vision for our students and adults alike to feel drawn to comfort and welcome, and ultimately then to be drawn into this place to have this encounter with Christ. And so we're very excited about the Mary Frances Clark Spiritual Center that will also be a part of this overall project. Thank you so much for your patience with this rather long explanation, but it's so exciting to have so many wonderful details. I will be around afterwards, and I would be eager to answer any and all questions that you have. In closing, I just want to echo Dr. Bonham, who referenced this is really what it's all about. Our mission statement right at the outset says that we're centered in Jesus Christ, and putting our time and attention and our resources and our care into this important, beautiful place that houses the Eucharistic Lord. I can't think of a better way to really enhance our mission and to bless our students and bless our communities. And so thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of that.
Thanks, Cami, for that wonderful explanation. And obviously, she'll be available too for more detail or any other questions that you may have as well. Now I'd like to introduce Isabel Ashley. She is a senior here at Carmel Catholic, and she would like to provide a brief testimonial. Isabel.
Good morning. My name is Isabel Ashley, and I'm a senior here at Carmel Catholic. I am honored to talk to you today and feel it is appropriate to speak about my time here as it is winding down. I am so thankful for Carmel and everything it has given me. It has blessed me with amazing friends, supportive teachers, and countless extracurriculars. It is truly my second home, and I'm so blessed to have all the experiences here that I did. For me, one of the biggest gifts Carmel has blessed me with is the strengthening of my faith. I attended a Catholic grade school and felt I had a solid foundation of my faith. Coming to Carmel allowed me to open up and explore my faith in more ways than I can describe. The chapel was a huge part of this growth. Starting my freshman year, my religion teachers would take my class down to the chapel to what students here know and love, Open Line Fridays. This was our chance to ask any and all questions regarding our faith. The chapel provided us with a private and intimate space to explore and learn more about our religion. It allowed my classmates and me to bond through our questions and dig deep into all aspects of our faith as we grew older. The chapel created a respectful and comfortable atmosphere, allowing everyone in class to speak openly and participate in these important conversations. To this day, coming to the chapel for Open Line Fridays is still some of my favorite memories from my time here at Carmel Catholic. This past year has been a mix of ups and downs for all of us. Being in quarantine was very isolating for me, as I'm sure it was for many people. One of my biggest loves for Carmel is its sense of community. This past year, there was a week in specific where the anxieties of COVID were getting to me. I was grateful to come into school for 2 days, but missed seeing my friends here all of the time. I had just finished my spirituality class, and one of my close friends pulled me aside and invited me to attend the Power of Praise retreat here in the chapel. I hadn't been back to the chapel since the beginning of the pandemic and was so excited to finally return. That night, I walked into the chapel not really sure what to expect. There was a group of about 10 seniors in total. I was blown away by how peaceful and calming the chapel was at night. We all sat down and were able to hear my friend speak about her experience in quarantine and how her faith was able to grow, even in a dark time. Hearing her talk about her faith and how she was still able to remain strong during the isolation of quarantine was so inspiring to me. Being able to come to the chapel to listen, pray, reflect, and participate in adoration was exactly what I needed that night. Not only did the chapel give me a sense of community, but it was also a light for me in the darkness of the pandemic. It stood as a testimony that my faith could continue to grow and prevail even through the sufferings of the pandemic. During my time in the chapel that night, I was able to feel the presence of Jesus through adoration, through my peers, and through all of our prayers. I was able to reflect and talk to God about my fears involving COVID. I prayed for my loved ones and friends and felt closer to God that night than I had in a few weeks. Being able to meet Christ in the chapel unexpectedly that night turned into one of the highlights for the rest of quarantine. It filled me with the strength and desire to turn to God when I was feeling overwhelmed or doubtful. The chapel was a gift for me that night that allowed me to be reminded of the importance of prayer and how prayer can bring the community together. I enjoyed getting to pray with my peers and catch up with some friends that I hadn't seen in a while. The chapel will always have a special place in my heart and hold so many wonderful memories I have made here at Carmel. Thank you.
Carmel's blessed to have the best students in the world. Beautiful, beautiful. And for getting up on a Saturday morning, putting on the school uniform and coming into school cannot be thanked enough. So thanks, Isabel. It was beautiful. The next individual needs no introduction from me. He's been here for 40 years and is a legend at Carmel Catholic. He's led so many kairoses and has been such an influential and beautiful person that has influenced so many lives at Carmel Catholic, Mr. Mike Fitzgibbons.
love all the references to my age. It's nice that Cammie got up and mentioned 1991. I was in 8th grade and Mr. Fitzgibbons was here. That was my 15th year. It really was. It's interesting to be standing here because, I wrote the words on my notes, re-welcome, but, it's interesting to be sitting and welcomed here. I'm usually the person, or have been the person. I actually seriously got teary-eyed. I'm like, whoa, I'm the person that does that. I don't do that anymore. And I haven't been back with a group for a long, long time. So I'll knock that re-welcoming out because you've already been welcomed. And Cammie asked me to do this. I said, well, okay, how long am I speaking? And she said, well, 3 to 5 minutes. There's a lot of you who know me. 3 to 5 minutes, what? So I texted her this week, knowing that she was a nervous wreck about all the things coming up, and said, okay, I've narrowed this down. I just cut 6 minutes out, and I got it down to 11 minutes. Is that okay? And she texted me right back and said, sure, yeah, that's fine. And I just know she took that seriously, like I would really do that. I'm not doing that, okay? I do love to give her grief, though. This is my favorite room in the world. Some of you in this room have heard me say that. I've said it hundreds of times in public. I've said it privately. I've witnessed so much in this room. Retreats, 8th grade retreats, class retreats, Kairos retreats, faculty retreats, prayer services, 24-hour prayer vigils, faculty masses, team prayer services, class masses, class prayer services, reconciliation services, group rosaries, baptisms, memorial masses, funerals, and the thousands upon thousands of private prayer moments I had myself in here, or watched others have. My 3 children were baptized right up there. My daughter was married in here, and my granddaughter was baptized in here. When I was hired to teach here in August of 1976, the Carmelite who hired me, Father Louis Eisert, told me, quote, Carmel was built on holy ground. He must have said that to me more than 100 times in the 2 years that he was the principal while I was here. And I spent the next 44 years trying to understand that sentence. I think I was finally able to do that, and understanding that sentence begins and flows from here, this holy room. If you want to know Carmel Catholic High School, become familiar and comfortable with and in the Titus Brandsma Chapel. Back in the summer of 1976, the carpeting was really bad, thick and bright red, really bad. The large crucifix you see on the wall was actually hanging over the altar, and it was facing out with an exact duplicate attached to its back facing the Mary window. That hangs in the information commons right now. While they hung there together, well, shall we say, it was a very formidable sight, to say the least. It led to quite a moment in my family history at one of my son's baptisms, when a young nephew of mine looked up and saw it and turned to my brother and sister-in-law and whispered, wow, I thought there was only one Jesus. That really happened. Last school year was my last as a member of the faculty here, 44 years. And as you know, the first week of March changed the world forever. We learned more than the education world ever wanted to know about terms like remote learning and the concept of Zoom. But like in many great places of learning, the teaching faculty here, of which I was no longer one, became the heroes they are and made Carmel happen anyway. holy ground indeed. I came into this holy room in all but 4 of those days between that fateful Friday in March and the official end of the school year and prayed for Carmel and all that it is and means. And of course, I was the one who benefited from that act. I got to see the sun at different parts of the day shine through the beautiful windows in different ways, in different patterns, as if to shout at my doubting soul, "In here, Michael, you will never be alone." I was humbled daily as I reflected on the very root of all that is Carmel, Elijah, at the front of the cave, falling to his knees in recognition of the presence in a wisp of the wind. As I sat alone in the deafening silence of this powerful room, hearing the empty sounds of the thousands upon thousands of great souls who have passed through and prayed here since 1962. And I prayed with them. I look around and I think of so many remarkable life-affirming moments, and how do you pick them? But here's just a couple. Like the graduate from a number of years back whose mother had just passed away, and she called me from her college before leaving for home. And in our conversation, she said, "Please say a prayer for my family in Brandsma, Mr. Fitz. Do it in Brandsma. It would mean a lot." Emma. Or the graduate home from college for a weekend who came back to pick up his younger brother, a sophomore at the time, and stopped to say hi to me. And after they left, I walked out of my office to leave and saw them heading into the chapel. I could hear him. My office right there. The younger brother was chiding the older one and said, "Well, you can say a prayer anywhere." And his brother said, "That's true. But for me, it'll be more special if I say it in here." Or at one of the 24-hour prayer vigils for life that we did, of the many that we did, in which we would pray the rosary at the top of the hour for 24 straight hours and sing with songbooks for much of the rest. And one year, right before the 1 a.m. rosary, a Carmel dad came in. I had taught and coached him, and he asked if he could join us for the rosary. So we prayed the rosary, and he got up to leave, and I walked him out. As we were walking out, the 30 or so seniors that were lying in various places on the upper level began singing with the songbooks. As we got to the door, I noticed tears in his eyes, and I said, "Are you okay?" And he said, "Fitz, do you know there aren't many places in the world where seniors in high school are praying their rosary together in the middle of the night, right?" Well, maybe he was right. But Carmel was built on holy ground. And the foundation of that very work is in this room. My favorite room in the world. So I close with a simple yet profound quote from the great Carmelite saint, St. Teresa of Avila. You do not need to think so much. You just need to love so much. How right she is. Thanks. God bless you.
So thank you, Mike, for those beautiful words. No, it came from your heart, and it was very special, and what a beautiful statement you made. So thank you so much. None of this would happen without the vision, without the support and help of Rich and Jill Caffarelli. They have been wonderful to work with, not only with Rich on the board, but just a beautiful couple and family that have given so much to Carmel Catholic. So I've asked Rich to come up and make a testimonial and a statement. So I'd like to introduce Rich Caffarelli. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. Good morning, and thanks for being here to learn more about the chapel renovation project that you've heard about and how you can help. My name is Rich Caffarelli. My wife Jill and I are the proud parents of 3 Carmel Catholic alums. We're certainly proud of the young women and men that they have become. In large part, we credit it to providing an opportunity for them to have faith be part of their upbringing. And we believe that one's faith is more apt to grow and develop if it's in a good environment for growth and an environment where it can be nurtured. Just like seeds need good soil, sunlight, water to grow and truly blossom. We saw our kids' faith grow here at Carmel Catholic. While the education was undeniably first class, and the extracurricular activities and other experiences that they had will be memorable for their lifetimes, it was the propagation of their faith that stands out amongst so many other wonderful experiences that they had during high school. Each of our kids served as Kairos leaders, and as an indication to us that they were allowing their faith to grow not only within, but were willing to share it with others through their experiences. The chapel is one of the Carmel's obvious signs of its Catholic identity, and many of us believe that such identity is key to its success. Having attended Friday morning masses and praying the rosary with students and faculty in this chapel, we've witnessed firsthand how many seek the warm embrace that this physical space provides to those who enter. Based on these experiences, we strongly believe that Catholic education is important to foster the continuation of the Catholic faith. Having access to a Catholic education is vital for the next generation to learn and appreciate the Catholic faith and pass it along to the next generation. When we decided to make a further investment in Carmel Catholic, our discussion quickly gravitated to the chapel as a special place for our family, like so many before us, and hopefully many more in the years to come. We would very much like you to consider joining us in financially supporting this renovation. As you have heard and will see, the planned renovations are not only beautiful, but they're symbolic, and it'll be a source of education for the students. On behalf of Carmel Catholic, we thank you for your consideration of supporting this initiative. With your support, the chapel's warm embrace will continue for years to come. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Rich, and thank you, Joe. Appreciate everything. To conclude, the final person I'd like to introduce is Father Carci. I will never forget the first time I had met Father Carci. He came over and we provided a tour with the principal and myself, and I believe Cammie was with us as well. And it was such an honor to meet an individual that is so faith-filled, loving, and giving as he. When we followed up with a conversation, we had asked Father Carci for help because we wanted to increase the number of masses that we had in the Titus Brandsma Chapel. And I'll never forget his reaction. It was, "Sure, we'd be happy to help you." And I was like, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." So every Friday morning, daily Mass for our students, and gives a beautiful homily and a beautiful service. So as if he doesn't have enough to do, being the head rector over at the seminary, he helps out Carmel. So Father Carci, thanks for coming here today, and thanks for concluding our program. So Father John Carci.
Thanks so much, Brad. Well, I certainly am the one with the least history here at Carmel, having the privilege to address you. But I think Catholic priests often find themselves in that situation. We move around a lot, we get transferred. But maybe one of the graces, or I find one of the blessings of that, is sometimes we can reflect back to the communities where we're asked to be, even if for a short time. And I guess I would just invite all of us to take with us from this morning the beautiful transition, if you like, from Isabel's words, Fitz's words, Mr. Caffarelli's words. This has nothing to do with age, I promise you. I always like to say to people, the Catholic Church is 2,000 years old, so we're all puppies in that process. But for me, the most powerful moment I spent in this place was, in many ways, a very sad day for the community, but in its own way, sublimely beautiful. It was a cold day in December, a couple of years ago, when a student tragically had died. And Cammie asked if I could just come over and pray with the community. Cammie was here, her team. Father Christian was here, some wonderful prayer with the students. And the place was packed. It was packed with students, it was packed with teachers and staff members. And what became for me very real is, three words you see on a lot of the materials or marketing for Carmel. And they're very good words, and I remember through my administrator's eye at one time saying, boy, that's really good. Brad, you got a great trio there. You can put those on a mug, you can put those on a t-shirt. You know the words better than I do, because on that day, those words became incredibly powerful and real for me. That idea of belong, believe, and become. And what struck me that day was how everyone belonged here. Now, maybe some of those students were ones like you all who come here a lot. Maybe some of those students had only been in here when they had to for an event once or twice. I'm sure not all of them were even Catholic, but there was no doubt that they belonged here on that day at that time. And that's the beauty about a space like this. And you heard it in all three speakers, that this is a place where you belong. But where you belong shapes what you believe, right? We read lots of things, we're told lots of things, but what we really believe, what absolutely sinks down in our hearts, is shaped by where we say we belong. And it was very clear to me on that day as well, that the belief of the kids and the teachers who were gathered here was something that really transcended what any one of us could have brought individually. And it was a manifestation of our faith in what it looks like in the everydayness of life, and realizing there's something that transcends our lives, even our own lives on this earth. And then what happened that day very clearly was that even in that moment, we had become someone that we hadn't been before, individually, but also as a group and a community. And all of us walked out through those doors that day as something more than who had walked in. And those are the things that we take with us, right? And Fitz said it very beautifully. He could rattle off 20, 30 things that he remembered directly, having been here. The students who are here now, they'd be able to name any number of things, and it allows us to become something more than we had been before. And that's what this space will continue to be. As someone gets up here, maybe 20, 30 years from now, and they've got their own memories. Cammie, this will be the only chapel I know of that has its own planetarium, so well done. And that'll be part of what others believe and become. And so I just invite us to join our hearts and minds in prayer. Eventually this space, I'm sure, will be rededicated, but today we just pray for God's blessing on the mission and the people who have made this mission powerful and live it out. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. Heavenly Father, we ask your blessing upon all those who've made this day possible, those who've gone before us. In deep gratitude, we remember them. Help us to remember that it is your love and your mission that allows us to belong. This will always be our home, and we truly belong here because of you. Help our faith, what we believe, to grow and deepen, not simply because it's taught to us, but because it's made real, as it will be made real and has been made real in this very space. Allow us to grow and deepen in what we believe, and transform our minds and hearts as we become whom you truly call us to become. As our minds and hearts are transformed, so, as Cammie said, we might go forth from here and transform the world. As students, as parents, one day as grandparents, to truly belong, believe, and become all you call us to be. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. And the Lord be with you. And may the blessing of Almighty God be upon you, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Let us go forth and announce the gospel of the Lord and the memory of Carmel. Thanks be to God.